Durham's Nothing But Truth.
Welcome back. Rain Durham's Nothing But Truth, proudly on AFR Talk. And bottom of the hour, we're going to be speaking to our good friend, Pastor Aaron Free, and addressing a debate that took place in a deli with a mayoral candidate, a discussion, an argument, in fact, which brought up some very interesting takes on judgment and if you do one thing really well financially, does that excuse what you've done, what arguably would be the one's personal life versus professional? I really can't look at that and not think double-mindedness. But that said, we'll be speaking to Pastor Aaron Free about that. Right now, we go to our good friend, and he is let me start with Forbes contributor and chairman of Bowyer Research, Jerry Bowyer. A belated happy birthday to you, sir.
Thank you, Crane.
It's good to be with you. Did you have a good birthday?
I had a very nice birthday. Thank you for asking.
Absolutely. Those are significant. Maybe times to step back and boom, hit and look and take a good look at things. That's what happened to me, and it was interesting because Catherine was very nice and obviously putting up with me on my birthday, and I started thinking about getting older and the amount of time we have, limited time, and how important it is to really focus our minds and hearts on God and use our godly gifts to the very best of our ability. One of the ways we do that, and you're marveling at this transition, I know, segue. Yeah, one of the ways we do that is to go back to school and really try to educate ourselves to a greater degree where we can apply that education to a job that pays more.
Yeah.
And, Jerry, you've been talking about this bubble, this student loan bubble, for some time.
Yeah. It's interesting. You know, what did David say in the Psalms? That we're supposed to number our days, and that's a way of learning wisdom, right? And I think that college is a great example of that. That something happened sometime around, my generation, I'm a little older than you, where we stopped thinking about whether to go to college or not. And it was like the decision was just made up in advance for us. If you are middle class, you go to college. The only thing to think about is which college are you going to go to and what major are you going to have. But it's just all set. There's no decision to make. And that is not wise because that's not counting the cost. Am I saying that nobody should go to college? Of course not. But I'm also saying that college isn't for everybody. I was about to say it's 4 years of your life, but actually it's not 4 years of your life. On average now, it's 5 or 6 years of your life. Less than half. I think 40% of college students now graduate in 4 years. So 5 or 6 years are the new norm. It's 6 years of your life. It is an enormous expenditure of financial resources, and not just during your college years, but because college has become so prohibitively expensive. It's an enormous expenditure for even a decade after or more after your college years, because there's an enormous amount of college debt. That's a decade and a half of a decision that is given almost no thought whatsoever, and that is not wise. If the case for college is that it is a good investment in your financial future, well, as someone who works in investments, my counsel is you do not decide to make it an expenditure in an investment without first analyzing the cost of that investment and analyzing whether it's a good investment. And in many more cases than you would think, it turns out that it's not a good investment.
Interesting. As you set that up, you made the statement that I'm not suggesting that not everybody can go to college or should go to college, or, saying that I'm not suggesting that. And what happens, Jerry, is this thing goes into the political realm of it's cartoonish, and we're so far away from what you just left us with, where the point is to look at it as an investment. What's the cost-benefit analysis of the time we're going in? And we get over here, and if you make any statement like you just made, if you were a politician, Jerry, they would run a loop of something saying you don't want everybody to go to college. You don't think
Yes.
everybody should go to college.
Yes, you would. And even when I've written about this, I've written a number of columns about this, and it's one of the more popular topics I write about, but the level of resistance to this idea, the misunderstanding, almost a willful misunderstanding, you're saying college isn't any good. Basically, higher education has become a new religion in America. It used to be that in American society, it was you were thought of as normal and healthy and productive if you attended and participated in a church. Higher education is the new church. You are normal and healthy and productive if you go to college now. That's sort of the new badge of being a mainstream part of society. And I think that's a mistake. It's an expenditure. It either makes sense and it doesn't. Now, I know some people say, well, yes, college is more important, education is more important than money. There's wisdom, there's virtue, there's elevation of the spirit, to which I say, yes, and those would have been wonderful arguments 100 years ago when a liberal education actually elevated the spirit and actually taught virtue. But it has been a long time since the majority of educational institutions have even believed in the idea of virtue, have even believed that literature used to study it to become elevated. What's happened is that I'm leaving the Christian colleges out of this discussion for the moment. What's happened is the mainstream of higher education now, if you get exposed to Shakespeare, it's mostly so he can be torn down. If you read Jane Austen or if you read Charles Dickens or any of the great English classics, you're really reading it with deconstructionism. What's going on here? Are there homoerotic undertones, or is there oppressive social structures being pushed through this literature? So the old idea that college made you a better person, that's the idea of a liberal arts education. Liberal in the old sense of to be a free man, to be free from your passions, to be free from bondage to lust, right? Right now, a liberal education is more likely to re-enslave you to your lusts. It's more likely not to liberate the spirit. It's more likely, if you start off as someone who loves English literature, let's say you're an 18-year-old high school student, maybe you're a young woman, and you love Jane Austen novels, and you love Shakespeare, and you go to college and become a literature major, for the next 4 years, what they're going to tell you is that literature that you love, we're going to teach you to hate it. Because that's part of the canon. That's Christian literature. It's patriarchal. It's Western, with the exception of Austen. It's written by men. And, what you thought you liked about it, you really shouldn't like about it anymore. So what precisely are we paying for? If it's not paying for itself in terms of higher earning, and it's not really inculcating wisdom anymore, if these universities just become indoctrination points for anti-Christian thought and for leftist thought, and they're costing more and more, at some point, doesn't the typical Christian parent have to say, wait a minute, how much am I spending to have the world's top propagandists try to de-Christianize my kids and turn them into liberals? And is that really such a good investment? And I think people are just starting to wake up to that question.
And we're even dealing with that in high school. We're dealing with middle school. This is what's happening to the education system. And to me, as you just pointed out, it's fertile ground that they're going to be planting these ideas because they've been prepped for it before going to college.
Yes.
They have that opening. It's already been deconstructed. So now
Yes.
they're just building on that. And
Yes.
this is something that really, this is impacting, obviously, me personally in the sense of the kids, but also I think this is hitting so many folks at the same time. You said waking up. How are parents waking up, and what advice do you have for them in the waking up process to look at and evaluate schools?
Well, my advice number one would be it is not automatic. It is a decision. Whether to send your children to college is a decision like any other decision. Buying a college education is a decision like buying a certain set of clothes, buying a house, buying a car. It is a cost-benefit analysis. Don't just do it because everyone does it. And here's another important part. Do not believe that it is essential to be in the middle class to have a college education. 2-year vocational programs, actually, the latest studies show that if you go for 2 years to learn, let's fill in the blank, radiology, computer repair, electronics, your starting salary is higher than if you get a 4-year degree. You actually get more money for going to a much less expensive per year school for half the time. So, take a serious look at it. Here's another thing. If you sit down and you talk to your child and you say, what do you want to do when you grow up? And they say, I don't know. Then how in the world can you enter into a decision about whether to go to college or not if you don't even know that if the chosen career requires a college degree? I mean, it's supposed to be if it's there to prepare you for a career and you don't know what the career is, seems to me it's premature to go to college. Why not work for a year? Why not work for 2 or 3 years and figure out what you like? And the other thing is, do not send your child to the most prestigious school just because it's prestigious. If you've made the decision you're going to send your child to a 4-year school, then what people do is they automatically send them to the most prestigious school. But that could be double the tuition cost. But the studies indicate that it's not the prestige of the school that associates them with higher income. It's actually the work ethic of the young man or young woman. So all this stuff, basically it comes down to this. Do not think like you're a part of the herd. Make an independent decision about college education. Don't let the anxiety of, being at a dinner party and someone says, oh, where does your child go to school? Oh, my child doesn't go to school. What? Are you poor? Are you backward? My child doesn't go to school because maybe they graduated right from high school and got a job. That's an honorable way to make a living. And by the way, entrepreneurship doesn't require a college degree. So why not just, go to high school, graduate from high school, or be homeschooled and get out there and start a business or work for an entrepreneur? There are other options available. It is not fate that you have to go to college. You don't have to do what the crowd does. You can actually do some independent thinking about this question.
Amen. Jerry Bowyer, Forbes contributor, chairman of Bowyer Research. There's just never enough time. I'd be at your door. If I lived in your town, I'd be knocking on your door with a microphone just asking for more commentary.
Come visit any time. We've got a room for you.
Hey, I appreciate you, buddy. Thank you for taking the time. Great to be with you.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Now, that's $1 trillion in outstanding student loans. We'll tackle that in the future in the sense of what the bubble is and coming, but want to stay on the focus of what Jerry was saying. AFR Talk.